See, we are recording. We have started recording. Okay, so feel free to unmute yourself to make a comment, ask a question, whatever. But please remute yourself when you're done, so we don't get a lot of feedback. So again, good morning, everybody. If you would all bow with me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us this morning. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be in relationship with you through your Son, Jesus Christ, and his sacrifice. Please help us to open our minds and our hearts and our souls to your word. May I do a good job leading people through today. May everyone participate in a productive and positive manner, and may we all walk away from this better than we were before we started. Please help us to all open ourselves to you, Lord. As we go through here today and go on from here today, please help us to be the shining light that you want us to be in the dark world. In your Son's holy name we pray. Amen. All right, again, good morning, everybody. All right, so we are going to, and I'm sorry I didn't get this out earlier, we're going to be actually going back to some very old stuff. We're going back to Numbers, chapters 13 and parts of 14. Before I really get started, though, I want to say that I'm excited that we hope to be doing our sermon as a live stream for the first time today. I know we tried about a month and a half ago to do that, and it didn't work so hot, but we've improved our technology, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. So, but anyway, for right now, we'll dive into Numbers 13 and 14. By the way, this is not going to be a long list of who begat who and all that stuff, okay? This is a passage about faith and trust in God. There is a small piece about a bunch of whose sons of who, and I'm just going to skip over that. So if you could open up your Bibles and go to Numbers chapter 13. I'm going to start right at the beginning. Now, I am going to skip verses 4 through 15 because that's the who's the son of who, and that's not really the message for today. All right, so Young's Literal is what I'm going to be reading. You can read along in your translation, and we'll see how we go. All right, 13:1. And Jehovah speaketh unto Moses, saying, Send for thee men, and they spy the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the sons of Israel. One man for the tribe of his fathers ye do send, each one a prince among them. And Moses sendeth them from the wilderness of Paran by the command of Jehovah. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, David, I've got you, but everything kind of went blank on the screen. It's back now.
Okay, I think someone was trying to share their screen. Okay. All right. And Moses sendeth them from the wilderness of Paran by the command of Jehovah. All of them are men. Heads of the sons of Israel they are. Okay, now we'll skip down to verse 16. These are the names of the men whom Moses hath sent to spy the land. And Moses calleth Hosea, son of Nun, Jehoshua, which, by the way, some of your Bibles are going to say Joshua, some of them are going to say Jehoshua, same thing. It's just the Hebrew name for Joshua, okay? And Moses sendeth them to spy the land of Canaan, and saith unto them, Go ye up this way into the south, and ye have gone up into the mountains, and have seen the land what it is, and the people which is dwelling in it, whether it is strong or feeble, whether it is few or many, and what the land is in which it is dwelling, whether it is good or bad, and what are the cities in which it is dwelling, whether in camps or in fortresses, and what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there is wood in it or not. And ye have strengthened yourselves, and taken of the fruit of the land, and the days are the days of the first fruits of grapes. And they go up to spy the land from the wilderness of Zin and Rehob to the opening of Naamah. And they go up to the south, and they come into Hebron, and there are Ahiman, Shashai, and Talmai, children of Anak, and Hebron was also built 7 years before Zon to Egypt. And they come into the brook of Eshcol, and they, by the way, Eshcol means cluster. And they cut down thence a branch and one cluster of grapes, and they bear it on a staff by two. And some of them are pomegranates, and some of the figs. That place has been called the brook of Eshcol because of the cluster which the sons of Israel cut from thence. And they turned back from spying the land at the end of 40 days. And then they go and come unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto all the company of the sons of Israel, unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh. And they bring with them all the company back word and show them the fruit of the land. And they recount to him and say, We come in unto the land whither thou hast sent us, and also it is flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Only surely the people which is dwelling in the land is strong, and the cities are fenced, very great, and also children of Anak we have seen there. Amalek is dwelling in the land of the south, and the Hittite and the Jebusite and the Amorite is dwelling in the hill country, and the Canaanite is dwelling by the sea, and by the side of the Jordan. And Caleb stilleth the people concerning Moses, and saith, Let us certainly go up, and we have possessed it, for we are thoroughly able for it. And the men who have come up with him and said, We are not able to go up against this people, for it is stronger than we. And they bring out an evil account of the land which they had spied unto the sons of Israel, saying, The land under which we have passed over to spy it is a land eating up its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it in its midst are men of stature. And there we saw the Nephilim, sons of Amalek, of the Nephilim. And we are in our own eyes as grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes. Chapter 14. And all the country lifteth up and give forth their voice, and the people weep during the night. And all the sons of Israel murmur against Moses and against Aaron. And all the companies say unto them, Oh, that we had died in the land of Egypt, or in the wilderness, or oh, that we had died. And why is Jehovah bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our infants are becoming a prey. It is not good for us to turn back to Egypt. And they say one to another, Let us appoint a head, and turn back to Egypt. And Moses falleth, Aaron also, on their faces, before all the assembly of the company of the sons of Israel. And Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh of those flying the land have rent their garments. And they speak unto all the company of the sons of Israel, saying, The land into which we have passed over to spy it is a very, very good land. If Jehovah hath delighted in us, then he hath brought us into the land, and hath given it to us, a land which is flowing with milk and honey. Only against Jehovah rebel not ye, and ye fear not ye the people of the land, for our bread they are. Their defense is turned aside against them, and Jehovah is with us. Fear them not. And all the company say to stone them with stones. And the honor of Jehovah has appeared in the tent of meeting unto all the sons of Israel. And Jehovah saith unto Moses, Until when does this people despise me? And until when do they not believe in me? For all the sons which I have done in their midst. I smite it with pestilence, and dispose it, and will make thee become a great nation greater and mightier than it. And Moses saith unto Jehovah, Then have the Egyptians heard, for thou hast brought up with thy power this people out of their midst. And they have turned and said unto the inhabitants of this land, They have heard that thou, Jehovah, art in the midst of the people, that eye to eye thou art seen, O Jehovah, and thy cloud is standing over them. And in a pillar of cloud thou art going before them by day, and in a pillar of fire by night. And thou hast put to death the people as one man, and the nations who have heard thy fame have spoken, saying, From Jehovah's want of ability to bring in this people unto the land which he has sworn to them, he does slaughter them in the wilderness. And now let, I pray thee, the power of my Lord be great, as thou hast spoken, saying, Jehovah is slow to anger and of great kindness, bearing away iniquity and transgression, and not entirely quitting, charging iniquity of fathers and sons on the third generation and on the fourth. Forgive, I pray thee, the iniquities of this people, according to thy greatness of thy kindness, and as thou hast borne with this people from Egypt until even now. And Jehovah saith, I have forgiven according to thy word, and yet I live, and it has filled the whole earth with the honor of Jehovah. For all the men who are seeing my honor and my signs, which I have done in Egypt and in the wilderness, and try me these 10 times, have not hearkened to my voice. They see not the land which I have sworn to their fathers, yea, none of those despising me see it. And my servant Caleb, because there has been another spirit with him, and he is fully under me, I have brought him into the land whither he hath entered, and his seed doth possess it. Okay, so let's go back to the top, and this will now become much more interactive. We'll need to be careful about muting and unmuting, but this is, as always, going to be a very interactive session. So let's just read the first 3 verses in 13. And Jehovah speaketh unto Moses, saying, Send for these men, and they spy the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the sons of Israel. One man to the tribe of his fathers do you send, each one a prince among them. And Moses sendeth them from the wilderness of Paran by the command of Jehovah, all of them men, heads of the sons of Israel they are. So, what has God asked Moses to do?
Go out and have them in the land of Canaan.
Yes, go out and spy the land of Canaan, right? Exactly, yes. Okay. And why one man from each tribe?
I'm going to assume that he was not trying to show any partiality, so that hopefully there be no division and, equal between the different tribes.
Yes, it's an all-encompassing buy-in, right? For those of you who've worked in or led large organizations, you want to get everyone on board, right? Dan, were you about to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say equal representation.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, I think we're on the same page there. So why, and I'm quoting here from the literal, everyone a prince among them. Why that?
So their opinion will be respected when it's given.
Yes, they're essentially already leaders amongst the people, right? And I think the other piece of that is, so if the tribe of Benjamin sends, one of their best men, their leaders, and the tribe of Gad sends, one of the least of their sons, those guys are not going to be on equal footing, right? Okay. So big picture, from what we've seen here, did Moses do what God instructed him to do? Yes. It looks like Moses did pretty much exactly what God wanted him to do. All right, so let's pick up down in verses 17. We'll read 17 through 20 again. And Moses sent them to spy the land of Canaan, saith unto them, Go ye up this way unto the south, and ye go into the mountain. And when you see the land and what it is, and the people which is dwelling in it, whether it's strong or feeble, whether it's few or many, and what the land is in which it is dwelling, whether it's good or bad, and what the cities in which it is dwelling, whether in camps or in fortresses, and what the land is, whether it's fat or lean, whether there's wood in it, and ye have strengthened yourselves, and have taken of the fruit of the land, and the days are the days of the first fruits of grapes. So what types of information has Moses instructed them to discover and report back?
I would say everything that's going on, whatever they, a survey of the land and the people.
Yeah, so it's pretty all-encompassing, right? The land, the people. I mean, we didn't specifically mention the birds and all that, but yeah, it's a pretty all-encompassing survey, as you said. I like that. Yes.
David, I would have described it as both a geographic and demographic evaluation.
Yes, very much so, right? Okay. And they partake of the fruit and vegetable lands. Why? Why were they instructed to actually partake of the fruits of the?
God wanted them to see how good the land was and understand what he was providing.
Yes. So if you were to go and search out an area, if you were to stand on a hilltop looking down into the valley, maybe you're half a mile away, would that be as good as going right down into the valley and grabbing a cluster of grapes, grabbing some pomegranates, grabbing some figs? I mean, they're immersed in the land, right? They're really in it, right? Okay, so what do we know about the time of the year and what impact that might have on their findings?
I'm sorry, what impact that might have on what?
On their findings. So what time of year is it? What?
Well, it was probably toward the end of summer because the grapes and the fruit were ripe at that time.
Okay, all right. So is this a good time to really check out the full abundance of the land?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So this isn't like the first of spring where the first green leaves are starting to show and the first flowers. This is all very nice and wonderful and everything, but doesn't give you a good sense of the full, wealth and health of the land, right? Okay, so the land is starting to come alive with the fruits and nuts and vegetables and everything, right? Also, by the way, this is a good time to check out the animals because they're coming out and eating all of the fruits and nuts and vegetables and all that, right? All right, so let's go to 21 through 25. And they go up and spy the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob at the going in of Hamath. And they go up by the south and come in unto Hebron. And there are Ahiman, Shashai, and Talmai, children of Anak. And Hebron was built 7 years before Zone of Egypt. And they come into the brook of Eshcol and cut down thence a branch and one cluster of grapes, and they bear on it a staff by two, and some of the pomegranates and the figs as well. That place has come down, that place hath one called brook of Eshcol because of the cluster which the sons of Israel cut from thence. And they turned back from spying the land at the end of 40 days. So, does it sound like these men did what they were told to do?
Yeah.
Yes.
I see a lot of heads shaking up and down, right? So good news is Moses did what he was told to do, right? He sent them out there to do that, right? The people that he sent, they did what they wanted to do, right? Okay. Did they just get grapes or did they get a variety of produce?
A variety.
Yeah, they got a variety, didn't they? And did they get things that were desirable and preferable, or did they just get kind of the scraps and stuff that no one really wants?
I would say the good ones.
They got the good ones, right? I mean, in Hebrew culture, things like grapes and pomegranates and figs, these are good things, right? These are the things you want on your table. These aren't the things that you eat when things are desperate, right? And by the way, you don't eat any of those things during Passover. All right. Okay, did they do this quickly? Were they in a big rush, or did they take their time and do it thoroughly?
40 days.
I'd say 40 days is pretty thorough, wouldn't you?
Mhm.
I mean, I suppose you could take years, but I don't think anybody wanted to take years, right? So, yeah, I would say that they did what they were told and they did a good job, right? All right, so let's go down to 26 through 29. And they go and come in unto Moses and unto Aaron and to all the company of the sons of Israel into the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. And they bring them all the company back word and show them the fruit of the land. And they recount to him and say, we come in unto the land whither thou hast sent us, and also it is flowing with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Only surely the people which is dwelling in the land is strong, and the cities are fenced, very great, and also people of Anak, and we have seen there. Amalek is dwelling in the land of the south, and the Hittite and the Jebusite and the Amorite is dwelling in the hill country, and the Canaanite is dwelling by the sea and by the side of the Jordan. So do they give a good report, a bad report, or a mixed report?
Mixed.
Yeah, mixed, right? I mean, certainly, it sounds like the native goods of the land, the fruits, the vegetables, and so forth. That sounds great, but it sounds like there's people there. They're in fenced cities. They're big people. Forget about what is to come in the verses ahead. Is this an honest depiction of what they saw? Do you think?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, yes, I think this is basically the facts, okay? The simple fact of the matter is the people living in this area at that time tended to be a much taller, bigger people than they were, okay? They weren't living in tents, they weren't living in camps, they were living in cities, often fortified cities, right? So this is all very true. Okay, now we move on, and we'll go from 30 down to 14:4. And Caleb stilleth the people concerning Moses, and saith, let us certainly go up, and we have possessed it, for we are thoroughly able for it. And the men who have come down with, and the men who have gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for it is stronger than we. And they bring out an evil account of the land, which they have spied unto the sons of Israel, saying, the land into which we have passed over to spy it is a land eating up its inhabitants, and all the people who we saw in the midst are men of stature. And there we saw the Nephilim, sons of Anak, of the Nephilim. And we are in our own eyes as grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes. And all the company lifteth up and giveth forth their voice, and the people are weeping during that night. And all the sons of Israel murmur against Moses and against Aaron, and all the company say unto them, Oh, that we had died in the land of Egypt, or in the wilderness. Oh, that we had died. And why is Jehovah bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our infants are becoming a prey. Is it not good for us to turn back to Egypt? And they say one to another, Let us appoint a head and turn back to Egypt. Okay, so what was Caleb's message here? What did Caleb say, basically?
We can go get them.
We can do this, right? Hey, brothers, man, we can do this, right?
Let's get started.
Yeah, let's go get started. Yes, right? He seems excited, in fact, doesn't he? Yes. Does he explicitly say that God will do this for them?
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. It may be implied. Caleb is a man of faith, as we find out, but it's not explicit there, okay, right? All right. What is the message for most of the rest of the men in the scout group?
They're too big. We can't overcome them.
We cannot do this. They are too big and too numerous, and they have fortified cities, right? So, with the exception of Caleb and Joshua, basically the rest of the other 10 guys are basically saying, nope, we can't do this. Okay, for the broader population of Israel, who do they listen to?
They listen to the majority of the people.
They listen to the majority. They listen to the naysayers, the ones like, we can't do this, right? We can't do this, right? So what is their I'm sorry, Richard, go ahead.
A couple quick observations. I think this shows us that after 2,000 years, eyewitnesses can evaluate and see and come up with different things looking at the same situation, number one. And number two, I think it also shows us that some people see things, the glass half full, some people see the glass half empty. Mankind has not changed.
Yes. In many ways, including our sinful nature, right? Yeah. Okay. So, what is their recommended action? What do the people decide that they ought to do?
Go back to Egypt.
Go back to Egypt.
Yes. And how are they going to do that? They're going to just kind of randomly do this, or are they going to have some sort of organization or something? They want to appoint someone other than Moses, right? And by the way, who appointed this guy Moses anyway? Anybody remember who appointed Moses way back?
God.
Yeah, God, right? It's like, okay, so God appointed Moses, but we don't like it, so we're going to appoint our own guy. Boy, does that sound like a good plan or what? Okay. Yeah, so God himself appointed Moses, right? All right. Okay, so let's take verses 5 through 9. And Moses falleth, Aaron also, on their faces before all the assembly of the company of the sons of Israel. And Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, of those flying the land, have rent their garments. And they speak unto all the company of sons of Israel, saying, Land into which we have passed over to spy it is a very, very good land. If Jehovah hath delighted in us, then he hath brought us into this land, and hath given to us a land that is flowing with milk and honey. Only against Jehovah rebel not ye, and ye fear not ye the people of the land, for our bread they are. Their defense is turned aside from off of them, and Jehovah is with us. Fear them not. Okay, so after the people kind of start to rebel, Moses strikes them down, right? No, what did they do? What did he and Aaron do? They fell down on their faces, right? You think that they were down on their faces praying to the people?
No, they were trying to intercede between God and the people because they realized the extent of what the people had done.
Yes. Okay, so what did Joshua and Caleb do?
They tore their clothes.
Yes, they rent their garments, right? Basically, what they say is that if this is God's will and we're faithful to God, then we'll surely prevail, right? I mean, it's a relatively simple, straightforward message, and I love the end of it. Basically, it says, "Fear not." Why did Joshua and Caleb claim and believe that they are? Oh, I'm sorry. Who did Joshua and Caleb claim and believe that these people are rebelling against? Moses?
Against
The Lord.
God.
God, right? Yeah, they
Yeah.
make it pretty clear. You're not rebelling just against Moses and Aaron. You are rebelling against God, and that's not a good plan. Okay, so I'm going to take verse 10 all by itself. And all the company say to stone them with stones, and the honor of Jehovah has appeared in the tent of meeting unto all the sons of Israel. In my translation, that's exactly 28 words, but they're pretty packed. I'll also note that in the literal it says the honor of Jehovah, the honor. Your translation probably says the glory, okay? Same thing at the time that the translation was made in the literal, honor and glory were essentially the same thing here. But in modern English, glory is probably a better translation anyway. Okay, so what did the people of Israel decide to do?
Well, they wanted to stone them.
They wanted to stone them. Now, is stoning just a regular everyday thing, or is this something reserved for what? What is stoning typically reserved for?
Capital punishment.
It's capital punishment. It's typically things that are what? Against the law of God, right? Yeah. Okay. So is there a long process here? Does God do a bunch of machinations, or does God take his time to do it? What does God do?
He suddenly appeared.
Yeah, he pretty much immediately comes out, right? Okay. And is the way that he comes to them, is it a way that they should have become accustomed to?
I think so.
Yes, he came to them from the meeting tent, right? Where Moses and Aaron would go to hear from God, right? Okay, so what do you make of all this?
God was not pleased.
I'm sorry?
God was not pleased.
God is most definitely not pleased, yes. Yes. Yep. He's not going to let this proceed. And he's going to remind them of his presence and power, right? I don't care how many years they've been in the desert. Do you suspect that having... Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Can you imagine? Can any of us really imagine how that must have felt when the Lord appeared in that tent? I am telling you what, that must have been an awesome. It must have been awesome. I just can't imagine.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Yes, thank you, Jack. I mean, I don't care how many years you're in the desert, 40, 400, I don't care how many, right? Having the Lord appear, in all his glory in the meeting tent had to just be kind of awe-inspiring. It wouldn't be for me. I mean,
I've been blown away.
yeah, blown away. Good. Yeah, yes.
I have a
All
question.
right. Yeah.
So knowing what God has done before and the fact that he picked the princesses from each tribe, then I would think that I'm losing my thought here. It could have been avoided because if Moses and Aaron originally chose the best of the best from each tribe at that time, then something was disconnected with them. So because I would think that they would be chosen so that they could create a calmness among their tribes so that they everything that they were doing, the scouting and all of that stuff, should have been such that in other words, my leader, for me, if I see a calmness, a coolness, collectness in him, then it's going to make me feel good that they're making the wisest choice. Like I pray for my elders every day and for my ministers every single day, because I'm counting on God to provide them with the wisdom that they need to lead us as the Mandarin Church. And I would think that, I don't know, was there some kind of disconnect with these guys who were picked by Moses and Aaron, because ultimately they felt the need to I don't know, it just didn't get through. And I could understand if it happened among one or two of the tribes, or maybe three or four, but it seems like the majority of them ready to stone Aaron and Moses, and they ready to book and go back to Egypt. So I don't know, was there something that wasn't coming through with these guys, even though they were supposed to be the best of who was picked from each tribe?
Anybody have an answer to that?
Well, they simply forgot to put God into the equation. They were looking at it strictly from a human standpoint. And yes, they were elevated within their population, but as so often is the case, sometimes those are the people who forget the power that is their source.
Yes, well said. Yes. Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Sue.
I'm sorry. Don't we still do that? We only call on him when we need him.
Yeah, Dan, and then Gary.
The tribe pick your leaders. I think it just is an example of be real careful who you choose to lead you. They may appear to be God's followers, but they may end up being more interested in themselves than God.
Yes, absolutely. Gary?
They forgot to read the heading at the top of their Bible that said this is the promised land, and that God is promised to you. So that's kind of the irony in the whole thing to me.
Yeah, well, yeah, and actually, whether you intended it or not, so they didn't have the advantage of hindsight, right? They were living it in real time, right? But yes, I think going back to the conversation here, God was missing from the equation, right? For too many of them, right? They reacted viscerally. Instead of taking the time to pray and go to God, they probably just reacted. Okay. All right.
Don't you think there was maybe a segment of that population that really and truly didn't want to leave Egypt in the first place?
Yeah, I think that can be true. We can get complacent in our misery, right? And sometimes, the misery that I know is better than the misery that I don't know, right? So, yeah, I think there's some truth to that, yes. And again, in various parts of what we're talking about so far this morning, I think Richard said it first this morning. 2,000 years, things don't change, right? We tend to make the same mistakes. Yes, Sherry.
I think that the people were mostly just living out of fear, and they were letting that take over, and they didn't have the trust that they needed, like Caleb and Joshua.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I see a lot of shaking heads out there, so I agree, yes. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to verses 11 through 19. And Jehovah saith unto Moses, until when doth this people despise me? Until when do they not believe in me? For all the signs which I have done in their midst. I smite it with pestilence and dispossess it, and make thee become a nation greater and mightier than it. And Moses saith unto Jehovah, Then have the Egyptians heard, for thou hast brought up with thy power this people out of their midst. And they have said it unto the inhabitants of this land, and they have heard that thou, Jehovah, art in the midst of this people, and eye to eye with them thou art seen. O Jehovah, and thou Clyde is standing over them, and in a pillar of cloud thou art going before them by day, and in a pillar of fire by night. And thou hast put to death this people as one man, and the nations have heard thy fame and have spoken, saying, From Jehovah's want of ability to bring in his people unto the land which he has sworn to them, he doth slaughter them in the wilderness. And now let, I pray thee, the power of my Lord be great, as thou hast spoken, saying, Jehovah is slow to anger and of great kindness, bearing away iniquity and transgression, and not entirely acquitting, charging iniquity of fathers on sons, on the third generation and on the fourth. Forgive, I pray thee, the iniquity of these people, according to thy greatness of thy kindness, and as thou hast borne with this people from Egypt until even now. So, Jehovah threatens to destroy the sons of Israel. Moses prays to Jehovah to not destroy them. Is his plea based on the needs of the Israelis and their innocence, or what?
Well, his argument is based on the appearance it would give those who do not believe, the Egyptians and others. So it is not based on God's mercy, but rather on the appearance of destroying his own people.
Yes, he appeals to God's mercy, but his main point, his main justification, if you will, is the glory of God, right? It's not really the Israelis. It's not certainly not their innocence. He's not saying, "Hey, God, you misunderstood. These people are innocent." He didn't say that, did he? No. Okay, so yes, he's looking for mercy, but he's actually appealing to God for the sake of God's glory and for the furthering of his kingdom, as we would call it today. Okay, let's go to 20 through 24. And Jehovah saith, I have forgiven according to thy word, and yet I live, and it is filled, the whole earth, with the honor of Jehovah. For all the men who are seeing my honor and my signs, which I have done in Egypt and in the wilderness, and will try me these 10 times, have not hearkened to my voice. They will not see the land which I have sworn to their fathers. Yea, none of those despising me see it. And my servant Caleb, because there hath been great spirit, there's been another spirit with him, and he is fully with me. I have brought him in unto the land, whether he hath entered, and his seed does possess it. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go, again, I'm reading from the literal here, and this is one of the points I like to make about the Old Testament. If you let me read the very end of verse 24 again. I have brought him into the land, whether he has entered, and his seed doth possess it. What tense is that? Is that future, present, or past?
Present.
Present tense. But has Caleb already taken possession of the land of Canaan? No, he's not. Why is that? Because to God, past, present, future, it's really all the same. Okay? God will often speak to us, particularly in the Old Testament, in either non-tensive terms or in present tense for things that have been in the past, things for the future, and yes, things that are now. Okay, but back to those verses. So it's all forgiven, and we just move on from here, right? Is that what God's saying? Not so much, right? Okay, so Jehovah does decide to not destroy them. However, they will not themselves go into the land of Canaan. Okay, only for those who are faithful and trusting. Yeah, Dan.
This to me is a picture of the struggle of God's justice and God's mercy. God would have been justified to destroy them all, except Moses, Aaron, and Caleb, those who were faithful. But because of his mercy, he preserves them and allows their descendants to. So God is just, God is merciful, but there is tension between those.
Yeah, so we often talk about that in terms of sin, right? Yes, our sins are forgiven, but that doesn't mean that there aren't ramifications to our sins. There are still consequences here in this life, right? Yes, and so that's not just a Christian New Testament message about forgiveness, but forgiveness with consequences and ramifications, right? Okay, so stepping back, What do you think the main messages of this passage are to us today?
Don't displease God.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice. I'm not quite sure who said that, but I love that. Yes, Richard.
Well, I think one of the lessons learned is even in the face of adversity, we've got to cling to our faith.
Yes. Anybody else?
And we can certainly use that today.
Yes, yes, yes. Our faith is strong always, right? Every day. Yes, Sue, looks like you want to say something.
Just what everybody else said. I would like to say keep him as the center of our lives and everything that we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dan. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, even when God has already given us the victory, we sometimes can't see it. Yes.
Okay, so what I wrote down is largely what you all have said. I say, I think the primary message certainly that I'm trying to drive home today is fear not, for the Lord is with you. All right, trust the Lord and His promises. And God is in fact merciful, but there are consequences to disobedience and lack of faith. Okay, so we're in kind of a trying time right now, and I think most of the people on the phone today, frankly, most of us, the trying on us right now, I have to admit, at least for me, I'm not being all that tested. Okay, and I'm thankful for that. There are a lot of people out there struggling a lot worse than I am right now. But nonetheless, we are in trying times. But this is not a time to fear. This is a time to do what? To trust the Lord God, right? Put our trust in Him and look for Him and His guidance. Go to Him in prayer and let Him guide us through. Because no matter what happens in this world, I think it was Dan that just said it, the battle's already won, right? Okay. We already know that we're saved, right? That there's salvation available to us. But that doesn't mean that things are always, rosy and hunky-dory and wonderful here in this life. Any other thoughts?
Hey, David, I think one other message to add on to that is that those of God will prevail.
Yes. Very good. Yes. Yes, Sherry.
With everything going on right now, we have a huge opportunity to be that light to shine, to show people that there's so much a better way to live and to trust and to not fear. All the things that you've already mentioned. We can witness.
Yes. And there's almost no time that's a bad time for witnessing, right? But adversity is a very good time to witness, right? And that can range, from active witnessing, right, which is always good, but also that lead by example, that live the good Christian life. And, how many times have we heard the message that people go like, I want what that person has. What's that all about? Why is that person, that way, right? And then they find out your belief structure and, and God's work rolls on, right? Okay, anybody else? Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much for today, by the way. But I'll also remind everybody, so 10 o'clock live will be a streaming sermon, not a pre-recorded sermon. It will be recorded for later, but I think as much as possible, if we can all show up and virtually congregate, that would be good, everybody.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, everybody. God bless.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Brother Dan.